So good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us this morning. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone of some Zoom etiquette. Please keep yourself on mute, and you may put questions into the chat, and we'll also take some time at the end to do some Q&A. In addition, if you want to see the PowerPoint or the slides, you can look in the chat. They've just been dropped in there. As you may or may not have heard, the session is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on the CASI website on CDE, on the CASI webpage on the CDE website, along with the PowerPoint and a resource page. Today, next slide, please. Today, we're going to be covering some legislative updates, several hot topics related to fiscal and program oversight. And as I indicated earlier, we will go into our regional breakout rooms. I also want to mention that we've added a parking lot to capture questions that you have asked that we haven't been able to answer yet. So we'll take a look at that. And we will briefly touch on the State Board of Education meeting that just happened a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Next slide, please. So I'm Mifala Fairley. I'm the Executive Director at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. We, along with CCAP and CDE, are your CASI team. If you are also from the Santa Clara County Office of Education, please wave your hand. Michelle Johnson, Matt Doherty, Shalu Sharma, Cynthia Tapia. And then our CCAP partners are Tom Hutton and Dave Patterson. And I'm not sure if Debbie Deal is here. I haven't seen her this morning, but can Dave and Tom please wave? And I also want to mention our CDE partners, which include Allison Ball and Craig Heimbigner. And Craig doesn't have a camera, so he's off video, but Allison, give everyone a wave, please. Right, next slide. Okay, so we'd like you to introduce yourself in the chat. Just put down your organization. And if you are not joining us this morning, if you were not here with us, what would you be doing? Let us know. Oh, everyone's shy. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Janice. Catching my breath with emails. Got it. Walking your goats. Wow. Unaudited actual review. CalSACE, grant and budget, looking at the dashboard, finishing a staff report on material revision, yikes. Horses and pups, CalSACE deadline. Okay, so folks got a lot of stuff to do. So what we want you to do is put that aside for the next 54 minutes and focus on charter schools for now. All right, I am going to turn it over to Michelle to talk about our parking lot. Next slide.
You're muted, Michelle.
So we've been getting lots of questions on a variety of topics, and some of them we do not have answers for, but we are bringing the questions to the appropriate divisions at the CDE where guidance is being developed. And we wanted to make sure that all of you know that we hear you and your questions are not being ignored, hence our parking lot. So keep the questions coming and we will share the guidance when it is available. So if there's a question that you don't see in the parking lot, please send us it again so that we can drop it into the parking lot or get it answered. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm. So we do have some questions that you have posed and we have an answer for. So we're going to take a few minutes to answer 3 of those questions.
So the first question is, does a county office of education need a community impact report for appeals? Well, it depends on which type of appeal it is. If it's a new petition under Education Code 47605, then yes, as the county office is performing a de novo review or a fresh look at the petition, the community impact is one of the criteria available as grounds of denial. Therefore, the COE could use the failure to serve the community as a whole as a ground for denial, and the community impact analysis, considering the fiscal impact of the charter school, would also be necessary, as well as the following: the extent to which the proposed charter would substantially undermine the existing services, academic offerings, or programmatic offerings. Or 2, whether the proposed charter would duplicate a program currently offered within the school district and the existing program has sufficient capacity for the pupils proposed to be served within reasonable proximity to where the charter school intends to locate. So if it's a renewal under 47607 and the findings of the community impact analysis will not be used to deny a renewal of an existing charter, but it may be used to deny the proposed expansion, which would constitute a material revision. For material revisions, the community impact analysis will be limited to the consideration of the impact of the proposed material revision only. So I hope that answers that question for you. Matt.
Second question.
Second question is, are there any potential consequences for a charter that does not turn in or post their LCAP on time? The short response is no, there are not any potential consequences for a charter that does not post on time. However, charters are still required to submit or post their LCAPs by the assigned deadline, and therefore not getting that in could be cause for us as authorizers to issue a letter of concern or notice to cure, which may find its way into a staff report come renewal time or other reporting to your board of authorizers.
Thank you, Matt. And Tom.
And then the last question was, hey, what is the universe of material revisions that would necessitate the charter school coming back to the authorizer to have its charter revised, and that has to go to the authorizer's board. And the short answer there is, the statute itself is pretty spare. It talks about the obvious things like expanding sites and grade levels, but it's often the case that the authorizer itself may delineate more particularly what it considers a material vision and wants you to come back to them on in either board policy and or in an MOU with its authorized schools. And there's lots of examples out there. LAUSD is one. There's lots of, we've been combing through some MOUs at CCAP and kind of looking at that among other things. So there's examples out there. And if you want some, shoot me a line offline and I'll send you what I got.
Thanks. So we do have one question from Barbara. She says, answering questions creates new questions. Michelle, this one's for you. Would a community impact report start with the district? I wouldn't consider doing one if no one was complaining.
So as I said before, because the county is doing a de novo review, you would still need to do a community impact report, because that's one of the grounds for denial. If no one's complaining, then you can simply state that there's no complaints. But just because the district does a community impact, they're doing their de novo review, you're doing yours. You do not look back at what the district's findings were, because you're supposed to be doing your own analysis.
Okay, so that was the only question that we had for that section. Let's move on. Next slide, please. So we're going to take a quick, Michelle's going to give us a brief rundown on what happened with at the State Board of Education last week or 2 weeks ago, or whenever it was.
It was actually held on September 14th and 15th, and the agenda included 2 appeals of charter petition denials. The first was for Caliber High School, and the second was for Mayacamas Middle School. And the state board took action on both of those. Please visit the state board website to watch the sessions for yourself. Item 9 was for Caliber, and that occurred on the 14th. It was near the end of the session. And items 11 and 12 happened on September 15th. And you have the link on the resource page. So it was very enlightening and very interesting. And as we have learned, go watch for yourself.
Okay. Michelle, you may as well keep going. Next slide, please. You're going to give us a
All right.
legislative update.
So for those of you who remember, and it may not be familiar with the legislative process, all bills go through a 2-year legislative process. This is the last year for a bill to complete the process, and the last day for bills to pass the House was August 31st. So the bills which have passed the House are now on the governor's desk for signature by September 30th, and some of them have already been signed. But at our last charter chat, AB 2774 was the only bill which we were still tracking that had not had a resolution by the legislature. And it was amended and passed by the Senate, but then when it returned to the Assembly, it was placed in suspense by request of the member. So that's where we're at.
Right.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to move on now to our hot topics, which is news you can use. And first up is Michelle.
So as I said, there were brand new laws that have just been signed into law. And in fact, AB 2158 was signed into law on September 13th, 2020, and it takes effect on January 1st, 2023. It is subject to a ramp-up period for full compliance by January 1st, 2026. The existing law has required members and certain employees of cities and counties to engage in 2 hours of ethics training relevant to their public service every 2 years. And AB 2158 now adds charter schools and county offices and districts to that list of local agencies that are subject to the biennial training requirements, and extends the obligation to the members of the charter school, to all of their boards as well. So the ethics laws include, but are not limited to, laws relating to personal finance by public servants, including but not limited to laws prohibiting bribery and conflict of interest, laws related to claiming the prerequisite of the office, including but not limited to gift and travel restrictions, prohibitions against the use of public resources for personal or political purposes, prohibitions against acceptance of free or discounted transportation by transportation companies, government transparency laws, including but not limited to financial interest disclosures, and open government laws, meaning Brown Act, and laws related to fair processes, including but not limited to common law bias prohibitions, due process requirements, incompatible offices, competitive bidding requirements for public contracts, and disqualification from participating in decisions affecting family members. So the requirement is that these trainings be held, and the trainings in the past have been created by by whoever is doing the training, but now the requirement says that the Fair Political Practices Committee and the Attorney General must be consulted in connection with the development of the training course materials. Charter schools must, and all these entities must provide their officials with information on how they can meet the training requirements at least once annually. And they must maintain records for at least 5 years after the training was provided, indicating the dates that they were fulfilled and the entities that provided the training. So applicable, it's not applicable to board members whose terms expire before January 1st, 2026. All other board members seated as of January 1st, 2025 have to receive this training by January 1st, 2026. And it also applies to employees that have been designated by the local agency's governing body, specifically those who are in the conflict of interest code or policies. So that's a lot of information, but everything that I just read is on the resource page. So,
Right. So a question came up from that, and that is, are charter school board members required to also take sexual harassment every 2 years?
ooh, good question. I will get back to you on that one because I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
Nor do I. Okay, next slide, please. Tom, you're going to take the next one.
All right, well, we had another act that was enacted on, and it both enacted and effective dates are the same. This one is has to do with Brown Act, and it's kind of a more particular scenario than just sort of blanket teleconferencing. This has to do with a member who has extenuating circumstances that does not allow him or her to attend the meeting in person, but she or he wants to do it remotely. And it allows that to happen, and it takes away some of the requirements that used to attend to that. So, you know, I had a meeting once in which one of my board members really needed to be at the meeting and was at a hotel like hundreds of thousands of miles, just really far away. And we had to notice that he was going to be in the lobby of the hotel at that time. And if somebody wanted to walk into the hotel and participate in the meeting, they would have to. This says that a member with extenuating circumstances, and those are defined, they have to do the, caregiving or medical emergency, they're enumerated. They must participate with both audio and visual. And then there's a procedure that's set forth how they do it, where they basically have to notify the governing board as soon as possible, up to the start of the meeting though, why they need to avail themselves of this opportunity. They can do it up to twice per calendar year, so it's not sort of an open-ended do it every time scenario either. They have to request to participate in the meeting remotely due to emergency circumstances. The board has to say, yes, you can. And then there has to be a general description of why. Now, you don't need to go into detail about my mother-in-law broke her hip, but there's a certain, medical confidentiality or something. But in general terms, well, I have a medical situation in my family or something like that sort of lets them know that it fits within the categories of the emergency provision.
Great, thanks, Tom. And I don't see any follow-up questions. So next slide, please. We're going to move on to top topics regarding fiscal oversight. So Shalu, I think you have the first topic.
Yes, Mayflower, thank you so much. So I know we are all busy with just getting done our LCAPs, and straight ahead we went into our unaudited actuals. So we just wanted to remind everyone that charter school 20-day attendance report is due to CDE by October 31st. As per Education Code 47652, charter schools that have submitted the PENSEC, which is the Pupil Estimates for New and Significantly Expanded Charter Report for state funding, they need to also complete the charter 20-day attendance report. Just be mindful that it is a process. When the charter schools upload their 20 days attendance report, it generates a certification that's a multi-layer, that requires a multi-layer approval. So please have a time cushion so that it gets to you in time and have the superintendent sign it before it get submitted to CDE. So again, the deadline for submission is October 31st. Cynthia, over to you.
Thank you, Shalu. So as mentioned during our August charter chat, charter schools should have submitted to their authorizing agencies unaudited actuals reports by September 15, 2022. Once received, district authorizers submitted those reports to their county offices for review and submission to CDE. If you are a county office of education authorizers who is tasked with transmitting unaudited actuals reports, please note that after reviewing for accuracy, you must transmit the report to CDE by no later than October 15, 2022. In our shop, one area that we closely review is a charter school's beginning fund balance to ensure it matches the prior fiscal year's reported ending fund balance. Any audit adjustments to the fund balance in the prior year's audit report should also be reflected in the unaudited actuals report. If those items do not match, the system will actually not take your submission. So it's something we carefully look out for when we're reviewing.
Great.
Back to Bifla.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna move into our breakout rooms in just a few minutes, but before we do, we wanted to give you the link. Amy, if you could drop thank you that into the chat. the link is now in the chat. It's for, it's the kind of feedback survey. So we just want to make sure you have it, so that you can complete it before you leave the meeting. We're going to now move into breakout rooms. So next slide, please. And you may join your region. I forgot how we're going to do this. Does everyone get sent to it directly to, okay, so you're going to be sent directly to your breakout room. And if it's a region that you don't want to be in, then you can come back to the main room and we will put you in a whatever, wherever you want to be. So we also need the link to the Jamboard survey. And I'm hoping that Janice Kwan and Corey Loomis are here so that they can facilitate those breakout rooms. All right. So we need the link to the Jamboard, and then Amy, can you send us on our way? Okay, so are there any questions that came out of your, or any discussions that came out of your breakout sessions that you want to share with the group?
For the Northern region, a lot of great discussion and questions around the oversight process as a whole, tools, checklists, resources that folks were able to share with one another. Alameda was highlighted as having really great tools and resources that they've developed and it's on their website. Help me out, folks, if I'm skipping something. Trying to think of what else we talked about. It's on the Jamboard. Questions around the new 1505 renewal guidelines and timelines, which understanding that CDE is working on recommendations around that process, and anything else that I missed or folks wanted to highlight.
How about our central, that was central. No, you guys are northern, right, Janice? Okay, about the central group. Well, central's figuring out who's gonna.
Oh, Michelle's talking, it looks like, but she's muted.
Oh, Michelle.
Unmute.
Sorry about that, guys. You would think after so much time I'd know this. Allison, I can share my notes. We don't have that all of the notes on the Jamboard, but I think generally speaking, we were discussing the opportunity for members of this group and all authorizers in California to support one another in the work that we do as authorizers. And absolute props goes out to Jeffrey in Fresno, who has shared with us a couple of forums that he is part of and has either initiated or is refining for us. And so I appreciate that. He has a monthly COE forum for authorizers and was also sharing with us that Fresno, San Diego, and San Bernardino have come together to provide some professional learning opportunities, and the work that everyone is doing. We discussed how accessing all the resources from CCAP are critical. We had one member in our breakout room share that he has in fact used those resources and adapted them appropriately for their needs with his charter schools. And so questions were asked about where we can find certain resources. And of course, Michelle Johnson knows I'm like I think that Michelle and Santa Clara County Office of Education is my go-to, has been for years. You've been my CCAP before CCAP was in my world. But every authorizer has a wealth of information. And so I'm just kind of relating to all of us that we're all here to support one another. So CCAP, Cassie Chats, this is fantastic. Did I leave anything out? Jeffrey, do you want to jump in, or any other central authorizer group member?
No.
I think that's it then. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, so in our southern group, Shalou, do you want to share what we talked about?
Sure. So we had some good discussions regarding the material revision. There was a school who is probably changing, or the district has asked the school for changing their lottery preferences. It's not kind of, it's basically expanding the eligibility. So we had some discussion around that, if that would qualify for a material revision or how to go about that. We had some discussion regarding Williams charter school adopting, you know, different sort of curriculums with ELA and history. So we had some good discussion around that. And then of course, for fiscal folks, they're all working on unaudited actuals. So we did share about some of the challenges that, you know, the authorizer are facing while reviewing the unaudited actuals. And also we had a good question regarding the comprehensive safety plan. Does the COE collects the CSPs for district authorized charters along with the county authorized charters? So we weren't sure. It's probably a question in a parking lot. Probably we'll get back to that later. Last but not the least, and we also have a county who is currently working on a petition on appeal, which has been denied by the district twice. So just, you know, talking about any thoughts on like a de novo review. And so we had a good discussion regarding that. So I'm not sure if I left anything, Mifla, that you think of. Okay,
Thank you.
alrighty.
And then finally, our district authorizer, I mean, our partners, charter authorizer partners.
Yeah, we had a pretty wide-ranging discussion on a number of things, as you can see from the Jam board. Some of the stuff was that we already have on the board for our parking lot, which are, you know, some questions about renewal tracks determination, when will the list be done, and the new tiers, those sort of things. There was some questions that but I think are ongoing, which is, will the participation rates for assessments, the penalties are there still discussion about what those rates will be, and how they'll if they'll have the same impact as previously considered for the process. We did have some discussion about the state board work, and not sure exactly where it's all going. And I think that's what everyone has been thinking about. Then I guess the other piece beyond that would, we did raise the issue about the you know, we don't want to look too far into the future, but we should, because the growth model is coming, and the discussion would be, what's the impact potentially of the growth model on our work. So I think that was it. And I guess maybe one piece we didn't capture well is that there was the conversation about the training, the new required training, and the desire for or the way the law reads that they will in fact FEPC and will consult with the field. We want to make sure there's that opportunity, that we track that opportunity and make sure that a proposed curriculum or content requirements are helpful for charter boards to understand what authorizer expectations might be in those areas. Group, anything I misstated or you want to add?
All right, great, thank you. So we've captured the questions on Jamboard, and we'll answer the ones we can and bring those answers back to you next month. Next slide, please. We want to talk quickly about some upcoming events. Tom?
Yes, thanks everybody. We have really a lot of registrations for the quarterly trainings that we have on financials and diving into financial documents with FCMAT and with Debbie Deal, who was with FCMAT and is now our treasurer at CCAP. As you may have seen the notice from CDE, we didn't have enough people to go ahead with the in-person meeting at LACO, but you can go back onto the registration page and either, if you want to travel, choose one of the others, or jump onto the virtual one, which is on the 14th. A reminder that The virtual training is 2 hours as opposed to 3. And the difference is in the in-person ones, we're going to invite everybody to bring financials from your own portfolio if there's things you want to share or talk about or ask questions about with our experts who are there. That's a little harder to do with the virtual one. The other thing is the virtual one, you know, all of our non-authorizer stakeholders, if they want to come and be part of that, you're welcome. The in-person ones, we're kind of creating some safe space for authorizers, so those are authorizing folks only.
Okay, next slide, please. So here is our website for CASI. And if you recall, I started this meeting by saying that this meeting is recorded, and that it will be posted on the CASI webpage at CDE, along with the PowerPoint and a resource page. So here's where you can, oh, sorry, that is our email address, sorry. But we will have all of the information posted on the CASI website. And I don't think we have that here for you, but if you go on the CDE website and type CASI into the search box, you'll be able to find us there. I think that's it. We're done 5 minutes early, unless anyone has something they want to say to the whole group. Going once, twice. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.